What an incredible opening round to begin the season. We had thrillers, high flyers, comebacks and more. So much to dissect. This is Access All Areas thanks to Crypto.com.
Out the back, Henry. Going to kick another one. No! Run down by Moore. Who lets him know about it? There's your siren. What a way to start 2023. Drawn game. A massive leap from Harry Himmelberg. Exalted heights.
Footy was back with a bang. Damien Barrett and Matthew Lloyd are here with me. Welcome, gents.
Thanks, Nat.
Let's dive straight into it because there is so much to get into. We'll start with St Kilda because they were a depleted side coming into this game against Fremantle. It was the last game of the round and it was an upset that, Lloydie, I don't reckon many of us saw coming given the Dockers made semi-finals last season.
Spot on that. On talent, I thought Fremantle should have won this by 6 goals. That's what I was thinking going into the game, and it was going to take something pretty special. Like, how does St Kilda score? You know, it's Cordy's, they're deep forward. They've got a lot of smalls around him, but they just manufactured goals. This was a Ross Lyon win, Damo. He sold it that we're going to send out 23 fit players and we'll get the job done. That's Caminiti playing his first game. Mason Wood's been half-back wing. He goes forward and kicks 2 goals. Owens had to kick a couple of goals, Damo. It was a special win for the Saints.
And one of Ross Lyon's new favourites, we're led to believe, Lordo, Mateus Philippou, is emerging, obviously, in his very first game of footy. And just the messaging that Ross was able to give these players throughout the off-season, Lordo, and then to deliver it and to prove to them that what he's saying works. It's untold how much this can do for this club this year.
I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, but off air I said, gee, Ross, the injury's going around. He goes, don't worry about that. We're going to send out 23 fit players and I'm confident we'll win. And the players, you could see, felt that with the way Ross sold this game to them. On
the flip side, Fremantle, super disappointing. Yeah. Justin Longmuir, the coach, said after the game it was a wake-up call. Lloydie, what's your biggest area of concern for them?
For me, I think the way teams are playing. Like, you saw the way Collingwood played the other night. You saw the way Essendon won their game, just how slow they moved the footy. And I think this came midway through last year. St Kilda, they had 65 entries, Fremantle. They took 136 marks, but a lot of meaningless disposals, so it's a real issue, and Justin's got to fix this himself.
There's an issue with the forward line, clearly, isn't there? I mean, they don't have the cattle up there. Nat Fyfe is not going to work as a forward. I think we can... I know you pumped him up last week, and I'm not raising this to...
and that was terrible.
Yeah, but I think we've now seen enough to know it's not going to work.
But his team doesn't help him either.
No.
It's one game, though. You're not throwing him out after one game, are you?
Oh, I'm throwing him out from having a major impact as a forward. Yeah, I think we've seen enough now. And also, too, I think the lack of spark that... I'm a massive rap for Justin Longmuir, but he may need to tinker with how he prepares and asks his players to play, because the teams now with the speed have got the advantage.
Now, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall at halftime just to see if Ross Lyon actually reacted to these 2 50-metre penalties that were given away by 2 St Kilda leaders, and they were in the space of 2 minutes. We're talking about umpire dissent. You see them point here, Callum Wilkie, to the scoreboard. Are we happy with the consistency with this? Because I noticed on Friday night that there was a couple of players who argued with the umpire, but nothing was done.
Oh, look, I'm absolutely happy with it if that's the barometer for the rest of the season. To your point, it probably won't be, and that's the issue. We've got 4 umpires on a ground each match this year. Obviously, we've got 9 matches over the course of a weekend, and there'll be different interpretations. But I take the view, just don't do it. Umpires will make less mistakes collectively than those players in a game of footy. Just have enough discipline. We praise footballers for the discipline they've got when it comes to lifestyle and working within a team environment. Don't do that. You know the ramifications for that.
Players adapt really well, but I don't think that's what the rule was brought in for. Dissent was me when they were yelling at umpires.
And swearing.
That to me isn't dissent.
That's dissent. It is dissent. When you're highlighting and exposing an umpire.
I think an umpire would hate paying that as a 50. They're told they have to do it, but I think they'd hate that.
All right, we're going to switch our focus now to the MCG, where the Bombers absolutely belted the Hawks, and there were some really lovely moments throughout this game, Lloydie, and it started with Chad Wingard. This was one of the highlights, or one of the sole highlights, really, for Hawks fans who were at the G yesterday. Nearly could be goal of the year. I know we're in round one. CJ showed off his talents, but there were two moments, Lloydie, that really got me from a Bombers perspective, and that was father-son Alwyn Davey Jr.'s first goal, and then, of course, Anthony McDonald, Tip and Woody.
Essendon are really big on getting guys, and this stems from Kevin Sheedy, getting guys to 100 games. And Alwyn Davey Sr. was on 99, and they said, let's get him his 100th. Dean Rioli was on 99 games. Let's get him his 100th. So there's Alwyn Davey kicking the goal, and just the amazing seeing his father and his obviously twin brother Jaden there in the crowd. That was a special moment. And obviously the next one, Tipper, out of the game for so long. Would have been devastating to see someone with so much talent just lost the footy like he was. So the crowd just loves him. He's a cult hero at Essendon.
Massive win for the Bombers and problems for the Hawks, which we probably knew deep down were going to come. Lotto, when you referred before about the trademarks of a Ross Lyon coached team, what did you see with the Brad Scott coached Bombers?
Well, I think they haven't been a happy playing group for a long, long period of time. And for the first time in a long time, they feel like they know what's expected of them and they believe in what Brad is asking them to do. And if you allow them to run and carry the footy like Hawthorn did yesterday, they are a dynamic team. Like they kicked 11 goals to 4 after half-time. And they're a dangerous team. They've got Gold Coast next week and the Saints the week after that, so they could really set themselves up and should go in as favourites the next couple of games as well.
It's similar to what the Saints did. No full forward from last year, the best and fairest in Peter Wright, and they just
and no Jake Stringer. They're their two top goal scorers. They did really, really well. Let's go to Giants Stadium because it was a gutsy win by GWS over the Adelaide Crows. Not only was it 36 degrees, it was oppressive. They were 31 points down in the second term. They turned it around to win by 16. They had 2 on the bench. They lost Kelly and Whitfield to concussion, Perryman to a hamstring injury. And Lloydie, captain Toby Green led the way with 4 goals, but he wasn't alone in that regard.
No, he wasn't. Tom Green, the next big thing, probably up there as well. He had 37 touches. And I know you love Chad Warner, Damo. Can I jump on the Finn Callahan one? I know the people are always there, but there was a pass he kicked to Jesse Hogan where you can't teach. He told Hogan where to lead by where he put the footy. So that was a special win considering the injuries that they had.
They seem as though they're going to sell this, at least to themselves, as being as meritorious as anything they did in any other year, including 2016, which was a prelim final year and a grand final in 2019. Is it that big? I mean, I know it came through adversity with the heat and the way the game unfolded early, but is it that big?
I think Adam Kingsley's brought a new game style, which they're really enjoying as well. So, no, I think they'll win plenty of games this year, I think, with that talent they've got.
And good news too, because their number 1 draft pick in Aaron Cadman kicked 6 goals in the VFL on Sunday morning as well. So potentially, could he come in? They face West Coast in round 2 on Sunday. This was Giants skipper Toby Green, though after the game, he certainly was a proud man.
Toby, you've been involved in some big games and some trying conditions. This is one of the great wins, isn't it?
Oh, it's definitely the hardest win I've ever had. That was the hardest game of footy I've ever played, hands down. Good effort. Like, I don't know, we had 7 or 8 cramping bad in this last quarter. Just to find a way, it's a pretty special win.
So it was a busy weekend for the match review officer as we move on now to 2 really big talking points out of the weekend. Cozzy Pickett has been given a 2-week ban by the MRO. Buddy Franklin, 1 week. Let's take a look at them now. Damo, do you think this is about on point?
I do, Nat, and look, if it was 3, I don't know whether they can, under the parameters of the MRO operations, give it 3, but, I mean, what else is he trying to do other than hurt? Now, Tom Stewart got done for 4 weeks last year on a hit on Dion Prestia. That could have been a similar outcome for Bailey Smith there, had he been hit and not been able to absorb it. The next one, Nat, you've got is Buddy Franklin's on Sam Collins, and this has been given a 1 week
Which
ban.
is about around the mark.
Yeah, I don't
Sam
mind it
Collins
either.
didn't go off. It didn't look as bad as Pickett's one.
Yeah, look, again, maybe as recently as last year, that may have been given a fine only, and you could argue, but I'm glad they're cracking down because this wave of litigation, it's already here when it comes to impact on head, and if we can remove the unnecessary hits, this is also in this category too, with McAdam there on where. That's yet, as we speak, to have an adjudication from the MRO, Lordo, but you'd think we've seen enough now this weekend already. That's also going to miss games of footy.
I just don't know what players are thinking. Like, we all know that if you hit a player in the head, you're gone. So the risk of trying, what's Pickett thinking? Like, why are you even going for McAdam in this sense?
And even if they argue, Lordo, it's high body, it's high shoulder, it's chest, it's still a head jolt.
Yeah.
Now, I know the rules say that's okay, but the rules also don't take in this litigation that's coming. It's all part of it now. Whether we like it or not, and whether we know it changes the game, it's going to be changed.
Hey, I knew back when I last played in 2009 that if you go and execute a bump and you hit someone in the head, you're gone. And yet a decade on, players are still having brain fades like that. They deserve to get the weeks they get.
And to me, Lotto, it's not tough. When a bloke's got the ball and you're exposed to be hit like the way. I mean, OK, it was in the 80s and maybe even bits of the 90s, but it's not now. And I don't think any player's going to look at that fondly.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
All right, for me, the performance of the weekend belonged to the Port Adelaide Football Club, and what they did to the Brisbane Lions was outstanding. And it was their young midfield group of Rosie, Butters and Horne-Francis that did the damage. Lottie, are we looking at this midfield group going, this is what Port have got with them for the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I'll give Damo some credit after this first round because he's one of the few that had them in the top 8. I certainly didn't. But you look at the names on paper, like Horne-Francis, I didn't expect him to play a game like that because I've never seen it at AFL level yet. But you think of Rosie, Butters, Dersma, they've got a lot, and then Boak and Wine's still there. So that is a pretty tough and dynamic midfield. And then I thought Brisbane, like some of the weak efforts back in their defensive group, by Harris Andrews and Payne and these guys. Ryan Burton did a great job in defence, but just on that midfield, those names on paper are pretty special. Yeah, they are. And to your point too, you just touched on the names on the Lions are pretty special too on paper, but they didn't perform in this game. Look, you give him that week off, don't you? But it wasn't a good start for a team that really expected to be in the grand final this year. To hear a coach say we maybe got ahead of ourselves, you don't hear coaches say that very often, and Brisbane must have thought, gee, what a pre-season we've had. We've just picked up this player, that player. But they got embarrassed on the weekend. What do you want to see from them on Friday night against the D's? Well, they've often been... they got shown up in a prelim. Yeah. They've been belted by Melbourne before, up until this last win they had in the finals last year. So, I think... the question is, how well coached are they? And Chris Fagan has to deal with that a fair bit. But, they just had no answers on the weekend. And I think Melbourne seemed very organised and well drilled. And after making adjustments... They lose Pickett, which hurts, but Melbourne should go in as favourites in this one. So while Lions fans might be a little bit perplexed, Roos fans, on the other hand, were on top of the world. Hope, optimism for the future, and to quote Robbie Williams, the kids are all right, Damo. Well, it was just the dream start for that man on screen there, Harry Sheasel, who for the first time in his short football life, and albeit in an AFL debut, found himself in the backline, Lotto, controlling proceedings like the best half-back flanker ever. Nick Larkey bobs up with 6 goals. We know his talents. We've seen that before. But Phillips and Powell and Curtis, and we'll see Comben here too, just forced himself to play a role that he wasn't meant to, given that Cherry went down early. And look, everything went right for North, and deservedly so, given Alistair Clarkson has brought this new we must seek to win every game attitude. Yeah, and Larkey's going to get on the end of some better service. But Nat, when you're not going to be a strong side, all you hang your hat on is kids. And we saw effort, and we don't see a lot of great kids from the West Coast compared to North, which is a worry. Speaking of Sheasel, on AFL Daily, our daily podcast, Damo, you are now doing a MVP award. Sheasel didn't feature in your votes. Nat, I'm restricted it to 5 votes out of the 9 games. I don't think a win over West Coast deserved the result there, Nat. I reckon that was harsh, Lottie. Jeez. OK. Well, what about the Eagles? Because they were fairly disappointing. That's the issue. To win 2 games last year and to then dish that up in the very first game of the new year after an off-season of public commitments to bettering themselves. Again, I don't make statements massively after round 1, but when you add that to the previous 25 games. They've won 2 games of 27 now. Average losing margin, 44 points in that time frame. It's a major worry. Nick Nui and Elliot Yeo are the only 2 omissions of any note from that team. Attitude's a massive problem. Well, Jeremy McGovern is one of their stars. He's out of contract. He's a free agent, of course. And before I get your opinions on whether or not it's the right move to re-sign him, or maybe they should look at their options, let's hear what McGovern's manager, Colin Young, told Cal and Riley on our brand new show, Gettable.
So they were gettable last year. I want to know who's going to be gettable this year. Let's go through some of your players. Sure. Jeremy McGovern, already been a big talking point in Western Australia. One of the biggest name free agents in the pool this year. Sure. Where does it sit with Jeremy heading into the start of the season?
I had a couple of meetings pre-Christmas, after Christmas with Rowan and the team. I've rung Rowie and I'll probably catch up with him in the next 7 to 10 days. and with the vision of trying to, start commencement on negotiating a contract for Jeremy.
So he's keen to kick
Yeah,
along with the
all
Eagles,
parties
yeah.
are on the right track. We think we'll hopefully get something done quick through the process. So, yeah, hopefully between now and the next 7 to 10 days, we'll hopefully have something solid.
Make sure you catch Gettable every Wednesday for all your trade and draft news. Just quickly, Damo, should they recontract him? Is it the right move?
Oh, I'm not convinced it is. I love Jeremy Cameron, but he's on massive money, so he'd expect to be staying on that massive money, which I think his talents still deserve. But is it right for him to receive that money at this club at this point in time? I think they should hold off on that as a club and work out what they are going to do, because if round one's an indication that it's going to be a very long season, I don't know whether he is going to help them through whatever they need to get to.
All right, it's time now to rewind back to Thursday night. The season opener ended in a draw. Carlton and Richmond. And Lloydie, you've got some exclusive vision for us and a couple of key moments in that last term.
I have, Nat. There's been a lot of talk about Lockie O'Brien and Harry Mackay, and did he do the right thing, Lockie O'Brien? So let's take a look at what he does here. So I've got no issue. He's a runner and ball carrier. So we'll just watch it as the coverage saw it, and we haven't got the down-the-ground vision to show you just yet, but we will very shortly. So he gets to... It's not a bad kick in the end, but he's kicking to 1v5. How could he have got it to Harry Mackay earlier? So here's Harry Mackay breaking. My issue with Lockie O'Brien is that when you bounce, you've got to have you're scanning the field. That's what Lockie O'Brien doesn't do well enough. So if he launches it now, it's over the top into space, and even if Harry doesn't mark the footy, the ball still goes out of bounds, and they can get a stoppage, lock the ball in their forward 50, and this ball doesn't ping back out, and they get the draw. So that's probably an issue for Lockie. When you bounce the ball, look up. But this is one we haven't seen, the last play, so it's a draw. This is Liam Baker here, and he's coming up against, obviously, his opponent is Blake Acres. He's just left him. So he's thought to himself, as a draw, I'm going to try and be bold here, and left. It's amazing. I just wonder whether that's an instruction at Richmond, or he's decided as sort of a seniorish type of player to go. But he would have had massive egg on his face if Blake Acres marked that footy and took it, because it's a bold play, Damo, that he's gone for to try and win the game.
You know footy as well as anyone who coaches it, inclusive of Lordo. Would you have instructed Baker to do that? That's
Too bold. So I've got no issues with him standing maybe 5-6 metres in front, but just a charging off the square. You're trying to beat 8 players by just charging off the square. Rarely do you win the footy in that sense, so no, I wouldn't be encouraging that.
Great insight. Thanks, Lloydie. And it's not too late to register for the 2023 official AFL tipping competition with thanks to Crypto.com. You can win up to $40,000 worth of prizes. Just head to tipping.afl.com.au. Now, on Friday night, I had the popcorn out because I was just curious to see how Ollie Henry was going to go up against his former side, the Pies, and the theatre of it, Damo, I absolutely loved.
Look, it's not for everyone, but I loved what Ollie Henry brought to this game, and I loved what Collingwood also brought to combat him, and I think it worked. I mean, it was a storyline within the game itself. He stood up at times. He's got a moment we're about to see where he'd rather have back, obviously, and this is that moment I'm referring to. Why slow down there? I've got no idea. But anyway, look, again, Darcy Moore got him into the game, didn't it, Lordo, and allowed him to be the captain of the Collingwood Footy Club.
I respected him because I thought he got better as the game went on. A lot of guys would really cower in that situation, but he could hold his head up high.
All right, we've got a brand new segment coming your way right now. It's called Quick Gives. I'm going to fire some quick questions, so I want sharp answers from both of you. First one, against the Saints next weekend, do the Dogs go with their 4-pronged attack again, Lloydie?
No for me. Didn't work.
Yes, you don't abandon it after one game.
OK, what value draft pick is free agent Ben Mackay from the Kangaroos worth on the open market?
Well, he was 21 back in 2015. I reckon he's elevated himself to about 13, Nat.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say around the 15 mark.
Who will finish higher this season, Richmond or Carlton, Lloydie?
I'm going to say Carlton.
Yeah, sticking with my pre-season predictions, the Blues.
OK, Damo, no, this is for both of you. Do we like the sub rule, or should we just have 5 on the bench?
I'd prefer 5 on the bench.
Yeah, same again.
OK, love it. Damo, who is your most admired journalist?
This may be a name not known to a lot of people. Nick McKenzie from The Age and Channel 9.
Yep, I like that answer. Lloydie, this one's just for you. What's more likely to happen this year? Australia wins the Ashes in England or Essendon finally wins a final?
Unfortunately for Bombers fans, I think Australia wins the Ashes, but I think next year the Bombers make the finals.
OK, how many wins would be a pass mark for West Coast this season, Damo?
Well, I had him down for about 11 at the start of the year. I'm not going to change it after week 1, but I think that looks unlikely now.
I'd say eight for the West Coast.
I feel like 11's too many. Most surprising team performance in a good way this weekend, Lloydie?
Port Adelaide. I was blown away by that second half performance.
Saints for me on that one, Nat.
And on the flip side, the most disappointing, Damo?
Toss up between West Coast and Hawthorn.
Fremantle for me.
All right, Hawthorn for mine. Have we already seen the mark of the year in round 1? Check this out from Harry Himmelberg because it was a screamer.
Well, when we factor in the decisions, Nat, around this, factor in Riley O'Brien's 202 centimetres and Harry Himmelberg stood on his head.
How good is the lift that he gets?
No one's going to get higher. Whether there's a better mark, maybe, but no one's going to get higher, Lord, I wouldn't have thought.
And what a great round of footy. The crowds are back. The football's spectacular. So I think... it was an ugly brand of footy, wasn't it, 4 or 5 years ago? And it's really exciting.
All right, time now for our Crypto Brave play. I nearly stuffed that one up. And this week's debutant for Carlton, Ollie Hollands. Geez, he's an elite runner, but he gets the nod for taking on 2 Tigers, Lloydie. Love this one.
He's amazing. I actually had to tag him last year, coaching against him. He's a Geelong grammar boy. And his courage, he was the captain of the side. He had 34 disposals the day we tried to tag him, but he also had 12 tackles. So he's just about Carlton's best runner already at the club. So, yeah, he'll play just about every game this year.
Now, on Friday night, I absolutely lost it when I was watching this on the telly. Before we go, just a little bit of karma, I reckon, for this Pies fan. You'll see in a second because she is making a fairly rude gesture. But, gee, you've got to be careful who you're standing next to because she cops one on the head. There's some wild celebrations there, Damo.
Yeah, keep the finger down, I reckon. Might have got what she deserved there.
I know. And what about this at the MCG? Thieving kids and the footy.
You would have done this as a kid. In fact, you'd do it. I wouldn't put it past you to do this today.
It's really... I think you've got to be really calculated. You've got to have good running shoes on, Lloydie, and I'd even go as far
Well, they've got
as
2
having...
footies.
Yeah, and you'd strip off one layer so that the security that was chasing you didn't notice that you'd changed clothes on the way.
I don't like it. I'd have Mickey Martin standing there ready this week. How many footies are you going to lose if we keep encouraging
Too many. And if that was disgraceful behaviour, have a look at this. Lordo, you need to explain yourself here. I've never seen someone try to make a team sport more about an individual. OK, it's a nice catch, and it's in the grand final and you won the game. But what's this?
Now,
Lloydie.
This wicket keeper...
No.
This wicket keeper, he got me caught behind the day before and he gave me a massive send-off. And I don't forget, Damo. I do not forget. And karma's, karma's there. You know what karma is? So he copped it the next day.
It's not about you. It's a team sport.
I know, but you've got to sometimes try and disintegrate the confidence of the opposition, and that's what I look to do in that moment.
It could not have been scripted better that you actually got that catch. Well done, Lloydie. That is all we have time for today on Access All Areas. We'll be back again next Monday. Enjoy the week.